Hi everyone, today is going to be the video for week 3 of fabric manipulation, which is going to be single edged ruffles. So the way a ruffle is different from what we've done in the last two gathering sections in the previous two videos is that you have one edge that's floating. So one edge will not be attached to any of your other fabric and one edge will be your anchor point. So we will be talking about how to finish the edges of your ruffles and how to apply the ruffles or insert them into a seam, as well as how to decide how much fullness you want in a ruffle and how long you would like the ruffle to be, as well as the different variations, layering, and shapes that you can make with ruffles. So the book is going to show you many different ways of how to finish the edges of your ruffle, so the free edge. And it's going to be really important to think about this before you start doing pretty much anything else, just so that that edge is going to be beautiful and it's going to help your ruffle do what you want it to do. So I'm just going to show you a few of the edge finishes that I think are fun, and there's many different other ways in the book that you can read about, but I'll just show you a couple that I think are interesting. So the first way to finish your edge is probably the simplest. It's just using pinking shears. So this is going to allow your fabric to be completely free at the edge. It's not going to fray. I like to do a pinked edge where my gathering is going to be, and you can also do it on the bottom where your hem is going to be and on the sides if they're going to be free. Next would be a lined ruffle. So you could fold over a piece of fabric to create a lining. This fabric that we're using, this is muslin, but the fabric that you're using for class is going to be fairly heavy if you do 2 layers of it, but you can certainly do that. It's going to create a specific type of look, and your ruffle is going to be quite heavy. You can fold over the fabric and create just a folded edge here, or you can have a seam at the bottom. So another possibility for finishing your edges is a binding. You can obviously do a hand stitch on the back so that you have nothing showing on the front. I've just done a little stitch in the ditch here. But as you can see, it does in our fabric make quite a stiff edge. So if that's a look you're going for, but just keep that in mind. And another possibility is doing a little facing on the back of your ruffle. You can also have this be the front, and you can do a little decorative edge. It will show you that in your book. And I'm also going to show you how to do a decorative edge facing so that the bottom edge is decorative, and I will show you how to do that now. So I have 2 pieces here. This is going to be my ruffle and this was going to be my facing. So this is going to be the hem edge, and I've just drawn a little design here, so I'm going to have some little points that we cut out. So what I'm going to do now is just stitch on my line that I have drawn my design with. So now that I have my stitch line, I'm going to go ahead and clip around all of these curves and cut out this extra fabric. So now that I have all my clipping done and I've gone really close on my little points there so that they're nice and sharp, and I can bag this all out. So this is what it looks like when it's all flipped and pressed, and now I can just turn this edge under and either slip stitch or top stitch over it. So that is what that decorative edge looks like when everything is all gathered, and this is top stitched. So you could of course do a slip stitch on the back and that wouldn't show here on the front, or you can also kind of display it as that edge of showing as part of your design. So for this little machine scalloped edge, which I think is so cute, what you're going to want to do is just fold over on the bias just about 3/8 of an inch, because we're going to use the blind stitch, and it's just going to stitch right along the edge here and then prick over to the other side. So to do this stitch, you're going to want to change a couple of settings on your machine. My machine is the Bernina 1008, so your machine might be slightly different, but all of them are going to have basically the same settings. So you want to change your stitch to this one right here, which is the 3 stitches and 1 zigzag, which is the blind hem stitch. So you're going to change it to that. Then you're going to go to number 5 on your zigzag, or the widest width. And I like I think it looks prettier when it's a little bit smaller. So you can do any stitch length that you want, it still will work. Just I prefer it to be small, so I'm gonna put it on a 1.5. And then you're going to change your tension to be increased. So mine is at a 9. So you want to line up the needle to be right next to your fabric so that it's going in. When it zigs over to the left, you just want it to be right next to the fabric. And then your edge looks like this, and you can either have that side up or down. So you could pink that edge and it would be a nice little decoration, or you can have it down like that, or you can trim your edge all the way to your stitching. But it is so cute. So that is what it looks like when it's all gathered up. It just creates this cute little scallop on the edge. So the last way I'm going to show you is just this teeny tiny little rolled edge. So it's perfect for ruffles because sometimes we really want a finished edge, but I don't want anything that's going to make it too heavy. So I'm using a specific foot for my machine. The foot looks like this. It has this little spiral on the inside. Hopefully you can kind of see that little spiral there. So it's going to take your fabric and feed it in a spiral so that it's like fold and fold. They were really inexpensive. However, only one of them, it came with 3, only one of them, for whatever reason, actually fits my machine. They're sort of a universal thing. I will link them below if you want to find something similar, or you can buy these and see if they work. It was like $6 for 3 of these. So the difficult part with these is actually starting out. As you can see that it gets a little funny at the beginning because it's trying to roll, and it's just, it's hard starting out. So you might want to give yourself a little bit of extra space for your hem if you are going to do that, a couple extra inches if you are going to use this hem style. But what you want to do is kind of just stick it in there and help it to start rolling itself under. So this is all of our different hems for our ruffles that we've done today. So this one is our pinked edge. So you can see this is the lightest, and you have kind of the least amount of resistance on your ruffle with that. This is our rolled hem. This is our binded edge, our facing, the decorative facing, and then the decorative scalloped hem on the bottom there. So as you can see, they all sort of affect the fabric a little bit differently, so you want to really decide what your look is going to be and which amount of fullness you want. You want to decide how you're going to finish your edge before you gather, and you want to do all of your edge finishing while your piece is flat. It just makes everything so much easier. So there's actually a few more ways that you can do your hems if you would like. There's several more options in the book. So if you want to do something different, take a look at that. So I wanted to go over these two diagrams here with you on page 49. This one is going to tell you about how to measure what your finished ruffle width is going to be, and just with the extra seam allowance for gathering and the extra seam allowance for your hems. It's just a good visual to see that you need to add those seam allowances to both sides. And this one is just a way of knowing how much fullness you want to have on your ruffle. So your slight fullness is going to be 1.5 times, moderate times 2, generous times 3, and abundant times 4 or more. So those are good ways to figure out what your pattern piece needs to be. So multiplying whatever the size that you want something to be by 1.5 or 2 or 3 or however large or full that you would like it to be. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do with your ruffles. You can stack them on top of each other. You can put them at angles. You can do circles. And something that you really want to think about just as much as how to hem the bottom edge is what you're going to do with this top edge, because sometimes it's not the prettiest. So here they've done a stacking where you can't see the top of the edge of the next one, and they've zigzagged across the top so that that little raw edge is not really showing and it's laid flat. And then here they have shown you how to set in the ruffle into a seam, so you can put a seam there. And here they've done kind of a little border that goes on top, so something that you apply over the top of the edge. So you can see here that they've set this ruffle into the seam and how nice that looks. And you can do a top stitch over the edge of it, or you can sort of just press it and leave it free. The other thing is thinking about the corners of your ruffles, so you can either turn them in like so. Finishing the edges is something that you need to think about through your whole process with these. You can also do these shaped ruffles, so it shows you the little shape of the pattern piece when it's flat and then how it turns out when it's gathered. So they have here something that gets longer in the middle and shorter on the sides. This is an example of how they've set in a circle ruffle and how they've done these curved pieces set in. This one has some pieces applied on top of the ruffles and a ruffle along the edge here. So for now, we're going to skip the section about the double edge ruffles, and we are going to go to the pleats here. So you can also do ruffles by pleating. So we're going to go ahead and show you that now. These are knife pleats where all the pleats are going in the same direction. And you have two choices when you're doing a pleated ruffle. You can press your pleat in all the way to the hem, or you can just press it in at the top, which creates kind of a more traditional wave ruffle, and this is going to be a more accordion style. And this one is a box pleat, so you have two pleats coming in together or going away. And you can see here the pressed in all the way to the hem and how you get the wave if you just press in the top. So you can use any of the hem finishing techniques that we looked at with the gathered ruffles on these pleated ruffles. You just need to think about how you're going to finish that edge as well as your top edge and the side. Your book shows you a whole bunch of really wonderful shapes you can create with the pleated ruffles and the different hem edges, and you can do a mixture of pleated and gathered ruffles. Again, for this particular block, just focus on the single edge ruffle, and we will get into double edge ruffles later on.